All right, well, Homeland Security officials are on the ground in Minnesota conducting a massive investigation into multiple fraud schemes happening in the city.
This comes as a group of Minnesota GOP lawmakers urging Governor Tim Walz to resign.
Madeline Rivera joins us live from Washington with the latest. Good morning, Maddie.
Good morning. Attorney General Pam Bondi says they've been looking into these allegations of fraud for months, and they expect more prosecutions will be coming. So far, she says 98 people have been charged, 85 of whom are of Somali descent. DHS officials posted footage on X yesterday showing federal agents on the ground in Minneapolis investigating suspected cases of fraud in daycare and healthcare centers. It comes after an independent reporter, Nick Shirley's video investigating federally funded childcare centers in the Twin Cities went viral. Minnesota officials are pushing back, though, saying previous investigations into the locations referenced in Shirley's videos did not uncover evidence of fraud. One childcare business that's now under the microscope is Quality Learning Center in Minneapolis, which misspelled learning on its sign. They say they're fixing the spelling.
A lot of the journalism that's been going on the last couple of days has been really dishonest. I don't want to point fingers at anybody, but I do feel like what was done was someone came to our building outside of operating hours. When there's a specific sign on our door that says our days and our hours, he came outside of those hours and then claimed, hey, they're closed and they're still making money. They're using taxpayer money to work. And it's like, you don't come outside of operational hours and then say they're using taxpayer money. That was completely false.
Regardless, state Republicans are slamming Governor Tim Walz, saying they've been sounding the alarm over fraud in Minnesota's childcare space for years. They say for the good of the state, Governor Walz should step aside. Minnesota needs accountability, a reset, and new leadership that can get us back on the right track. It's not just Minnesota facing accusations of money mismanagement. A California auditor says it recently found millions in wasted dollars in state agencies. Guys, back to you.
All right, Maddie. What type of daycare has the daycare open from 2 to 10? That makes absolutely no sense.
I've not seen that.
And then there's some reports in the New York Post that all these places have not had children there at all. And then suddenly when these reports come out, now the children have started to arrive. So somebody's hiding something here.
Well, the children were, what the report said, I think, is that the children were arriving. They had parents bringing the kids there for the optics of it. And then like an hour later, the kids left just so it looked like that there were kids showing up to these places. But Guy, I'm sorry, you're a dad. I'm not dropping my kid off at a learning center that spells learning, leering.
Yeah,
if you can't get it right on the signage, really, we're going to trust that? I don't think so.
But they have the word quality in there, Laura. It's a quality leering center. The quality leering center seems, I don't know, seems legit. Look, whether or not that specific place was engaged in fraud, and it does seem a little sketchy that all of a sudden they're like, oh, here's a bus full of kids for 1 hour, right? That seems odd to me if that's true. What we do know for a fact, and this has been reported not just by independent journalists, it's not just Republicans yelling about it. The New York Times had a big story talking about well over $1 billion in fraud in this state. And the U.S. attorney out there said the number could be much higher than that, closer to $9 billion.
$9 billion, and he said when he looked at the overall spend on Medicare and Medicaid in the state, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $18 billion. He says at least half, if not more, he believes is fraudulent. So you're right, it's around $9 billion just in Minnesota. But now we're hearing, as you just heard from Madeline, it could be California. This is probably not going to end, Lawrence, just in Minnesota.
Well, this is why the administration is surging in ICE, and they've already found criminal aliens that are there on the ground. We had the director of ICE, Todd Lyons, on later. And this is what he had to say about these sanctuary city policies driving the fraud here.
What we're seeing is there's always a tie when it comes to sanctuary jurisdictions where you can hide in plain sight. You see a lot of these fraudsters use a lot of the sanctuary rules and sanctuary protections to, enact criminal fraud just like this. We've been on the ground for so long looking into these states that are conducting these type of material fraud. And when Homeland Security Investigations goes into these businesses, there is criminal activity when it comes to labor trafficking, child trafficking, human exploitation. And that's what we're looking at up there in Minnesota. And you always come back to these sanctuary jurisdictions where you'll find them, like again, hiding in plain sight and using those sanctuary protections to employ, not only illegal aliens, but conduct criminal fraud just like you're seeing right now.
By the way, if you have not watched that, I think it's a 42-minute video. Nick Shirley, that independent journalist, when he went and visited all of these different locations, if you haven't seen it, you should watch it because it is shocking to see what he uncovered. And kudos to him because, Lawrence, a lot of people out there, a lot of journalists out there, were just totally ignoring this.
Well, they were ignored, and then you had a governor that is over this state, obviously, but was almost the vice president of the United States. And I just don't understand why there wasn't enough Oppo research done where we didn't find this out during election time. Yeah. I mean, the guy was going to be second in command of the country, and billions of dollars is going to terrorism and other fraudulent programs, and we didn't know anything about it. Now, to the credit, apparently a lot of local reporters have been sounded alarm, and whistleblowers have been sounded alarm. But instead of the governor investigating the claims, he went after those people.
I wonder if Kamala Harris's team vetted this.
100%
Did they know this and not care, or did they not know? Because she just went with her gut and there wasn't much time, so we're going to go with jazz hands. I don't know, but it's a complete mess in Minnesota, and I wonder if this might be a leering opportunity for voters there in 2026.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.